Welcome to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast, where insights, attitudes, and methods for success get illuminated. Learn what leaders and change workers have done and are doing now to create magnificent futures. We interview great guests who inspire you to overcome obstacles and achieve your goals. Be sure you visit our website at self-helpcoaching.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, just relax as you listen. You can do something else, but be ready to make an important note. And let's get started.
The title of this interview is Epigenetics. The future is in our hands. Or something like that. I'm open. That's what Nikki said. I tell you, this guest, Nikki Burnett, is truly a special guest. And here's the first clue. That's what she submitted into her form. She's so flexible and open-minded. She goes, she's open. But that, and she is a special guest. I've been after her for some time. I'm so excited for this interview. Aww. I first noticed her on Facebook. She has she's out there, multimedia. She does a radio show, including a radio show, which streams on Facebook. I somehow saw it. I was like, okay, so she caught my attention. Then I listened in. Great content, very charismatic person, very intelligent, knows her stuff, great value. If you're relating to her content, which is obstetrics, basically, and which is unprecedented for this podcast. We've never had anything like that, but it's very special approach to that. You'll see from Nikki herself. So this is novel. This is a first for the podcast, and I'm really excited for this interview with my special guest again, Nikki Burnett. And let me tell you what we're going to be speaking about: epigenetics. So data shows that preconception care significantly decreases rates of negative outcomes. We're talking about birth, right, people? We're talking about infants. So when the goal is to get pregnant, it is important to be as healthy as possible. This drastically increases the success of the pregnancy, the baby's future, and future generations. That's right, people, future generations. So many of us suffer from symptoms without understanding the root cause or how to address them. These symptoms are our bodies talking to us, trying to give us information. If pregnancy is the goal, it is of great importance to address the root cause to allow the body to repair and balance. We live in a toxic world with food that is depleted of nutrient density, but we have so much control over our health and the health of our future generations. The data shows that our health today has the potential to affect 7 generations to come. 7. This puts a lot of accountability, that awful word, on each of us. How empowering, right? People think responsibility is a terrible thing up until they're responsible, and then they realize it's really liberating and empowering.
It's true.
And as a FX nut, by the way, Nikki, what is an FX nut? I don't know what that is.
Oh, functional nutritionist.
Okay, functional nutritionist nut. Health detective and lover of life, Nikki's goal is to help people realize the power that they have in their own health journey. And for those who are planning to get pregnant, the power they have in creating healthy families for generations to come. So that is a lot of great stuff we're going to be talking about. Welcome, Nikki.
Thank you. I should let you do that all the time. You do it so much better than I do.
I am a trained actor, but it was all sincere. Now, before I let Nikki speak unreined, let me tell you about her. She is a functional nutritionist, as she already alluded, and founder of Taste Life Nutrition, a health detective practice. After suffering from her own health struggles that affected every part of her life and dealing with the frustration of feeling helpless with no answers, she decided to take her health into her own hands. Over time and consistent research into many health modalities, Nikki was able to find answers. That wonderful thing. Ask questions and get the answers. Nikki was on her own. She was her own health detective. After nearly a decade of being in practice and over 20 years of study before that, Nikki has helped hundreds of clients regain their health. Now, Nikki's focus is helping women prepare for pregnancy and those struggling with autoimmune disorders and GI dysfunction. That's gastrointestinal, correct?
Yes.
She digs for the root cause of your struggles by lifestyle review and running functional lab testing. Scientific, not just hype. Wow. She is your partner on your health journey, taking the complicated and making it simple through baby steps and sustainable change. That sounds like a very, very valuable thing you do, Nikki.
I think so. I mean, I enjoy it. It's not always the easiest thing, but I think it's pretty valuable to be healthy and create healthy generations,
Absolutely. I was a life coach, and it's so gratifying to help people. Usually I hate helping people, but when I get paid for it, I love doing it. No, I'm kidding. No, it's so gratifying. And especially when they overcome hurdles, and achieve a goal, whether it be an emotional goal,
yeah,
some of the goal, or a health goal. It's so wonderful. It really is. And that's what you do. It's great. By the way, before we start officially, Nikki, didn't we just go on a scuba diving vacation? Do I have that correct?
I did.
So
yeah.
you are a fellow scuba diver.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
It's
We went to Belize. It's our second time in Belize. Went to Key Calker, and we got in 4 dives. And it was, I'm sitting here right now. So I'm in Colorado looking outside, and it's white. Everything is white. So being able to get a little color and get a little sun in January makes me really happy, because I'm a warm weather girl, and I love the water, and I love diving. Yeah.
Now, I'm a single guy. When I go on a dive vacation, I like to get 20 dives in. I know you're married, so you have a family, you have children, right?
No, married. Well, my kids are my dogs. I've got 3 dogs.
Oh, I'm really a dog guy, but I have a bunch of cats now, all rescues. So right now I'm really an animal lover. Good. But 4 dives on a dive vacation. I mean, you must have been having a great time elsewhere, out of the water, or out of the underwater, I should say.
I mean, yeah, we did. We ate until we couldn't eat anymore. I love seafood, and so we ate.
It's the best. It's the best.
We had cocktails.
How could you live in Colorado, Nikki? Being a seafood lover, I'm in New York. Right?
Yeah, that's a whole other story that we probably don't have time
okay. Right. Very good. Excellent. But there's nothing like, just to finish up on scuba diving, there's nothing like it. It's a whole other world, visiting the undersea. Yeah. And it's so liberating, because you defy gravity, right? Mm-hmm. So awesome. Mm-hmm. And you visit this other world where we don't belong. You get to visit with respect. And by the way, I have a partner. He's the tech guy. I'm the other guy. And we were scuba diving buddies long before we became partners. And it was because of that scuba diver buddying. That's how we became partners. And we were partners, then that dissolved, and he was going to help me. And I visited him down in Florida, which is awesome scuba diving. And we were diving a cavern. And in that cavern dive, I realized, like, this is my partner. I don't need to find another partner. I don't just need his help, but this is my partner. I just had to revisit the relationship and correct it. And once I did that, he's like, we're partners. And it's been awesome since. So there's so much to scuba diving. There's so much from it.
It's amazing. So I'm a newbie at diving. And so just briefly, my first time, which was Belize, the first trip, we got in 10 dives. So that was a really good dive trip. But this one was a lot of other stuff, and it was really windy. So it was a little bit tougher, but amazing anyway.
Fantastic. And thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. By the way, this is an audio podcast. 99% of the audience listens in. However, if you're listening, I recommend you go to YouTube. I mean, I'm ugly. All right. I used to be good looking a long time ago. Now I'm old. But Nikki is the opposite. She is extremely pleasant and easy on the eyes. So I recommend you going over to YouTube and if nothing more, just to watch. Don't even listen. So, and I say that quite professionally and respectfully. So
I'll take it.
You're quite welcome. And I'm really excited to do this. So now let's kick it off. My first question, all right? The first one, which I need to know the answer of. What is epigenetics?
Epigenetics.
I don't know if I said it correctly initially.
You were close.
I was close, all right? And why is it so powerful? Epigenetics.
So this is my favorite thing. This is something that, as you move through as I move through my career and, my education and learn more and more about epigenetics, it is truly the power that we have, each of us, to create our future. We are co-creators, right? I'm a Christian, and so I believe that we're co-creators and we have a purpose in life, but we make the decisions, right? And so epigenetics is one of those things that just sort of lit my world up when I started to really dig into it. And so essentially we have our genome, right? It's for the most part, everything that we are is our genome. The epigenome, though, are locations on top of genes that have the ability to turn on and off. So the epigenome is how the genome expresses. So when I say that, say that someone in their family history has cardiovascular disease, it may be in our genetics, and a lot of times that's what we blame things on. Is we blame it on our genetics, or we blame it on bad luck, or we blame it on age, when so much of what we do in life really is in our control, and it's how we react. So saying that cardiovascular diseases in my family, autoimmune diseases in my family, that doesn't mean that I have to have cardiovascular disease or autoimmune disease. Epigenetically, it's there, but if I am, watching what I eat, epigenetics is based around lifestyle. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. So we have control over what we put in our body. We have control over what we put on our body, which is just as important. Think about the shampoo and the hairsprays and the perfumes. Goodness gracious, the perfumes are just crazy toxic.
Really?
Oh my goodness, perfume, cologne. Oh,
Wow.
it's insane.
So what? Now I got to start showering? What are you saying?
Hey, you do you.
Okay. Well, I had no idea about that. I
Yeah.
never heard of that.
Yeah. And so all of these things can create a toxic burden that can turn on or off specific genes, right? And so we have these variants that each of us have as individuals. But gosh, now I'm jumping around a little bit, and I apologize.
No, this is good. I'm getting it all.
Okay, good.
Doing great.
So having these variants, these are what can turn on and off and create or not allow for these things like cardiovascular disease or autoimmune disease to express. And so it puts so much power in our hands, but it also holds us highly accountable, right? So we are accountable for our health, and we can't blame it on genetics, and we can't blame it on family and luck and all of these things that are, kind of silly. It's totally in our hands. We have control over so much. We can't control the toxins that are in the air, but we can control what we're cleaning our home with. And all of those things are so important in every day. And then getting back to what you said a little while ago, when it comes to the epigenome and why preconception care and planning is so important, is because the epigenome can pass on for generations, and the data shows 7 generations. So the health of mom and dad today, before ever conceiving, is what can potentially be passed on for generations.
So it's not merely the gene, but how the gene is affected by reality, right? By how the body is treated, what goes in it, how the body's general health or maybe specific health, that affects the gene, and that will be replicated forward.
Yeah, potentially, yes. Yeah.
Well, makes sense to me, actually. And I'm not a scientist. I'm not anything, actually. No. But it became obvious long ago that people argued about, is it genetic or is it background? It's so obvious. It's half and half. And I don't say that formulaically. I'm saying don't count on good genes. All right. And just because your parents abused you is no excuse that that I gotta abuse myself or whatever, or abuse others. Do your best today, and maybe you'll have a better future. All right.
Well, it's likely that you'll have a better future, right? Just because you might have a terrible family history of whatever you may have, or what they may have, doesn't mean that that has to be your future.
Absolutely.
And so that's what's so beautiful about all of this, is it takes that out of the picture to an extent, right? And puts it right here. Yeah. Okay, I can do this. It's I have control. And you said something too, talking about trauma. Trauma can have a really, really big impact on the epigenome and can flip on some of these variants, creating disease. And so those are some of the things that we think about when I'm working with people. I need to know their history. I need to know if they've had trauma. I need to know if they've had, and it's amazing how many people have terrible history, traumatic history. It's heartbreaking. It's so much more than I ever knew about.
It's so common and terrible that we do our best to hide it typically. So, it's not advertised, even though you often see it in behavior, especially people in psychology like myself, but nonetheless, it's terrible how people are abused. And it's awful. I mean, on every level.
It is. It's heartbreaking. And it can have, and then the holding it in, like you just said, can create that much more of a burden. Sure. And we talk about the environment, or, these toxic burdens, the toxins in our food and in our washing, cleaning stuff. But the toxic burden from trauma and the stress that it creates is just as bad. So, I try to make sure anybody who I'm working with, let's make sure you have somebody on board who's helping you deal with this, because you can't hold on to it. You got to be able to let it go. And a lot of times when somebody is not getting better the way that we think that they should, so often we can take it back to the toxic burden of trauma in their history. It's everywhere.
Wow. Wow. And if I could just jump to the conclusion on that, if I may. Just because you've had trauma, and more or less we've all had it, all right? And when you have enough fear, that's trauma. Right? There you go. All right. So we're 360, always happening. The world is dangerous intrinsically. That just means it happened. And it's not the dictate of the future. All right. We can always address it, resolve it. All right. And there's all different ways to do that, and varying levels of effectiveness, to diminishing it or improving your outlook, to complete eradication. So that's it's not a sentence. It's just an event that happened.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's so much, I think a lot of times can just become a part of our identity, kind of like a disease can become a part of our identity. And having the tools to cope is important. And, kind of gets back to something that you've probably heard me say, and I say a lot, I say it to anybody who will listen, but it's to build your team. If we want to live this really amazing, optimal gift of a life that we've been given, and do all of these things that we know we have in us to do, that we know that we need to do, we have to have our team to support us. I have my bookkeeper, and I have my business coach, and I have all of these things, but we have to have that in our health journey as well, and have somebody who you can talk to, have somebody that is going to work on biomechanics, your chiropractor, your PT, whatever it is, and have somebody who can help you with your food and your nutrition, and helping you understand symptoms in your body, especially if you're dealing with situations that are super chronic, Lyme disease. You need a team if you're dealing with Lyme disease or anything, or obviously cancer, things like that. You've got to have your team.
I often say that by myself, I can do very good things. I don't say that to diminish myself. I say it so I can finish the statement. But through cooperation, I can do great things.
Yes.
So when I cooperate with others, and I'm cooperative, and they cooperate with me, great things happen.
So true. I love it.
Whether it be dealing with my own health, or an endeavor or project, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's because everyone brings their own strengths, right? And through our numbers, we just compound the results. It's fantastic. Let's take a moment to hear from our sponsor. We'll come right back with the vivacious Nikki Burnett.
This episode of Self-Help Coaching is brought to you by Perficio. People start something, then something comes up, or they need a break or even a vacation, and they often never get back on track. Perficio is designed to allow all of this. Visit www.perficio.io. That's PERFICIO.io, where you can live your life as you learn and make progress toward your life-changing goals.
You're listening to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast with me, your host, Tony Petroza. We're having a wonderful conversation with Nikki Burnett. We've talked about her expertise. Well, I think we're only just scratched the surface, quite frankly. But it's really an organic conversation. I'm really loving it. And by the way, Nikki, I'm also a Christian, but no other Christian seems to agree with me. I'm a very unconventional person. I have a very eclectic beliefs. However, I was raised Catholic. I was an altar boy. I wanted to be a priest as a kid. Got thrown off the altar boys. Went to Catholic school. Went to Catholic high school. And then I blah blah blah. My whole life journey became agnostic, atheist. But and then I became born again Christian more times than I'm sure of. But now
can't have too many, right?
Right. But I identify as a Christian, right? But I'm unconventional. That's okay, because I don't have to live by anybody's rules, right? Even the Bible's dictates. I do me. But there's so many great philosophies. I mean, though Christianity is of course considered a religion, but one of the great philosophies is also Christianity.
Yeah, agreed.
Very good. Okay, now to my next question. Okay, what are the major pitfalls you see when it comes to finding answers to health and or fertility struggles? Now we're getting into the fertility and the obstetrics. So go.
Oh, there's some pretty big ones, but I think that one of the biggest ones in my mind is it's really the toxic load that we carry. And we've already hit on this just a little bit, but I think digging into it a little bit is important.
Yes.
And for clarity's sake too. So it's not obstetrics because it's not necessarily that we're working with moms and babies.
Nikki, I just learned the word. I wanted to show it off.
Well, you did great. So for everybody else's sake, it really is about preconception planning. So whether people are, in this very early stages, even if they're, don't have a partner or spouse who they're working with, but they know one day, I want to get pregnant. I want to be as healthy as I can, all the way through those people who are, have been struggling dealing with IVF and all of these things. It's a really broad range of people, but preconception planning can really help to, just like it says in the beginning. You kind of already did the podcast for us with what you said in the beginning, but it is creating a healthy body, a healthy pregnancy, a healthy baby, and a healthy future. So the preconception planning part is just really working on your body in order to allow for all of these great things to happen. Let's get pregnant naturally if possible. Let's have healthy, sperm and healthy eggs and all of these things that are so important to our future, to everybody's future. So I think that there are toxins that people don't realize can really create an impact on us. And it's the toxins in our food. So we have the food colorings, and we have the pesticides and the herbicides. I got in a Facebook fight with someone one time, and it's not a real fight, but he was like, it's not that big a deal to have a few pesticides and herbicides every now and then on our food, and it helps to increase yields, which it doesn't. That's not true. People like to think it does, but it doesn't increase our yields. But this is something that we do every day, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day as we eat food. And this constant burden of pesticides and herbicides, which are also endocrine disruptors. So what that means is they are called xenoestrogens. Xenoestrogens are toxins, they're endocrine disruptors, and they bind to estrogen receptor sites. And so they bind really, really tightly, so it doesn't allow our own natural estrogen to bind to these receptors that are all over our body to do their job. And so this is for both men and women. So it creates these massive hormonal fluctuations and dysfunction. And we have boys and men who have little breasts, and we have these women, these girls who are developing too early. All of these things creating problems. We have situations with massive PMS in women, massive PMDD, and then we go into
what was that last thing? PMDD?
PMDD, premenstrual dysmorphia, premenstrual.
So severe PMS, let's call it that.
It's a really severe, lots of anger, lots of emotional struggles, and and lots of pain. It's heartbreaking. I've had clients who have had to go to the hospital on a monthly basis because their pain, their cramps are so severe every single month. And it's because of, we are taking in all of these toxins and these, estrogens. Some of us don't have the ability, due to epigenetics, to properly detoxify some of these estrogens. And these are things that we can see in labs. And so the liver is not able to function the way that it should. We may be, deficient in micronutrients that allow for all of these functions to happen. And so the hormonal fluctuations are massive. And this, of course, will increase the chances of, struggling with fertility. It has the potential of being, kind of a mess. But then,
as an aside, Nikki, during an argument, is it out of bounds to blame it on the woman's period? I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. Joking, people. Joking. So there's a lot. I mean, so talking about just the menstruation cycle, there's all sorts of facets and factors to it. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me that even in preface to that, if you're considering pregnancy, right, don't even wait to the fertility as a topic, but that now is the time to start considering it, because as you're talking about epigenetics, your health, what you eat, the state of your health, how it affects your genes now, which is relevant to not just the fertilization, but the conception, right?
All of it. Yeah. Yeah. The conception, the baby, all of it, and your great grandchildren. So we have our fertility rates for both men and women have dropped significantly just in the last 20 years.
It seems to me there's a hormonal insanity going on in today's society, both naturally and artificially.
Yeah, agreed. I totally agree.
Wild stuff. And I'm sorry I interrupted you. You were talking about menstruation and these elements of, especially these issues with it. Did you finish that?
I think that the only thing it would be is understanding, the food that we eat, how important that it is. And I hit on this a little while ago, but talking about what we're putting on our skin, those are also endocrine disruptors. If they are, sort of your mainstream, there are things like, now I can't think of it. Neutrogena is one of the biggest.
Yeah,
and it's also one of the most toxic.
Wow.
Yeah, and so putting it.
Now I'm going to be sued. No, I'm kidding.
As far as I know, we can say anything we want to the.
No, I'm only joking. I'll say whatever you want.
I know. Sometimes I wonder about stating brands, but I think it's important for people to know. These mainstream brands who claim to be really healthy are really very toxic. Yeah. And so I think it's important for people to know, and it gives people the ability to make their own decisions. That's all I care for with people, is have the knowledge, and then you make your own decisions. That's all I care for with my clients. I'm going to guide you. You have to make your own decision, right? And yes. And that's part of, being accountable for ourselves and to ourselves. And it gives us the ability to make the right decision, but nobody's perfect. Right. We're not always going to make the right decisions, but but it's thinking about and having the knowledge to know what is healthy, what is not healthy, and it's empowering to have the knowledge, even if you don't use it.
So there's a lot of complexity, and it seems to me, I hate to cut to the chase or not, that you need someone who knows what she's talking about, so she can help you in this vigilance or this approach, because it's like it's like a minefield out there with all these dangers, and I don't say that to join in the fear mongering.
Mhm.
I mean, the world is a dangerous place the moment you come out of the womb.
Yeah.
We're all born to die. I say that with no cynicism. But because of our wonderful modernity, right? There's more and more chemicals. Food is more and more preserved, and the nutrients depleted and packaged. Put it in that shelf will be last you 20 years, which I love. But of course, there's a
Right.
cost to that.
Mm.
There are always costs.
Yeah.
That's the point, right?
Yeah.
And if it's someone like you can point out, okay, well, just so you know the cost, and then there's maybe an alternative, and then maybe a guide path through to their destination where they want to go, which is fertility, right, and conception, and you even work post-birth as well.
So I don't usually work with babies, if that's what you're asking. I'll work with moms and their nutrition and their health and
That's what
everything. But
okay.
Yeah.
Very good stuff. Did I sum that up fairly accurately?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. I didn't want to speak. Okay, let's take a moment to hear from our sponsor, and we'll come right back with Nikki Burnett.
This episode of Self-Help Coaching is brought to you by Proficio. What is the key to wealth? It's not just making money. It's not wasting it. Avoiding debt and costly mistakes. To get the wealth mindset, visit www.proficio.io. That's PERFICIO.io, where you can start acting like a millionaire instead of just dreaming to be one.
You're listening to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast with me, your host, Tony Petroza, having such a conversation with Nikki Burnett. I have questions to ask her, but I just so enjoy this discussion. It's just titillating, it's great stuff. It's really organic. Wonderful conversations. It's so pleasant to have a discussion with you, Nikki. All my expectations are being realized.
Aw. You're so sweet. I mean, you give me so many compliments. I could talk to you every day.
I mean it. That's part of the great thing. One of the great things about my job is when I meet people that are, if not like-minded, of the same tribe, which we want to improve ourselves in the world. And so we learn things to do that. And so that's what we're doing right here. I come from my own expertise. I mean, I was a personal development coach, and now I'm the head of a technological coaching company. And you're epigeneticist, or
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay, no, you know what? I'm going to say PhD in epigenetics. No, I'm kidding. No, but you're and that's the thing. People say, there's a lot of controversy about coaching. Coaching is an unregulated industry, and that's everything has pros and cons. Okay, yep. Every single thing. I mean, one of my sayings is your own firing squad actually has pros. There's actually pros. It's quick. Oh. It's quick. All right.
Okay, I'll take that.
There's a pro, right? There's a lot of slow ways to die. So there's coaches that are terrible coaches or not very good coaches. But there are more and more people who have the attitude, which is they really want to help, and then they get the competence, all right, because competence is critical, right? Then they get in this coaching industry, which is there's so many kinds of coaches, and they bring what they have, and then they get experiences the more they do it. I have this idea that you have a lot of experience. You certainly sound like you know what you're talking about. You use some big words. I don't know if they're made up or not. I don't know. It's great stuff. And and the coaching industry is growing and growing continuously. And wait till they get a hold of my app, which is going to transform self-help. It's automated coaching. We'll talk about that after our interview. But
sorry, go ahead. I was going to tell you that I saw the video that you did when you launched, and I just think it's fascinating because I was going to ask you a little bit about it, whenever the time is right. But what you're doing is fascinating.
Thank you.
Really
it's
cool.
So complex, Proficio, that we weren't even able to launch. We had technical problems. We have to make this thing totally ready for prime time. This kind of coaching is totally unprecedented. It's automated coaching. So it has to work just right with great precision. It's designed for a person not to fail, which is the only real failure is when you quit, right? So it's designed not to let a person quit in a very intuitive way, because I can't just say, I can't let you quit. The person will say, F you, Tony, which I've heard many
Right.
times. It has to be done for the individual. All coaching takes into account the individual. Undoubtedly, you talked about that at length. You find out all this data on people, and any coach worth their salt finds out enough information and coaches a person from where they are.
Right.
A lot of people think, oh, I want to be this coach me from there. No. That's where you want to go. That ain't doing us any good. I got to coach you where you are.
Yeah.
Let me get you there. And making an automatic coach, an automated coach. In essence, this is your coach. It's a robot. That's what I've created. It's very complex. Nothing like it's ever been done before. So to get it working right is very difficult. I've been at it over 8 years.
Wow.
8 years. But there's a number of reasons why I never quit, and that is that nothing I've ever done, and I've done a couple of things, to be honest, has so much promise and so much potential. If this works, and I believe it will, it's going to transform self-help. Imagine that, that a person buys Nikki Burnett's book, all right, on how to get pregnant. How to get pregnant. Find someone you like. No, I just find someone with good genes and is not laden by their trauma. No.
Right.
But everything that an author promises, they're going to get. Which sounds outlandish because it sounds like incredible. How could you deliver on that? Well, that's what this app is going to do. Because it doesn't let you quit, and it's totally customized. So if you have a course, the student is going to get everything that you say they're going to get out of it. And then here's the most important thing. If I'm holding up a book, by the way. This is a book, Life on Your Terms, a great self-help book, came out a few years ago. I happen to be an editor on it. Rex Sykes was a mentor. It was awesome. If you read this book and got all this great information out of it, or any other book, but didn't apply it, especially consistently, you might as well have never even heard of the book, never mind read it. You've got to apply what you know in order. The great misconception out there is that knowledge is power. That's false. That's half the statement. Only applied knowledge is power. Otherwise, it's just information, right? It's just information. Like if you go to Nikki's website and say, oh, look at all this great stuff that she can do, she can help me. And you are of need of this help, but you don't act to work with Nikki or to take Nikki's advice or consulting or coaching, then it's worthless. It's worthless. Action is everything, and not blind action, right? Yep. I mentioned persistence. Persistence, the old cliche is persistence is the key to success. It's true. However, the other side of that coin is learning. You must also learn. You must stop doing what doesn't work and become more effective, refine, adjust. You must learn. And that's a good thing, because good thing we got these brains. We can do that.
Yeah.
So we are built for success, but we have to do what success requires, no matter what it is.
Absolutely.
And I believe Proficio will bring in a success revolution and transform self-help. Okay, enough about Tony. This discussion's with Nikki Burnett, Tony. Hello.
It's all good. It's all good. People need to know about it, right? And we're going to talk more about this for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you. So, all right, let me ask my next question. All right.
Yeah.
Now we talked about various facets to health, things to avoid, things that positives. Let's talk about balance now. Why is balance important?
So I think balance in every part of life is important, right? So balance in your health, balance in your relationships, balance in your mental and your emotional health. We have to, I think if things get out of balance, then that's when you start to get that downward spiral. And that's the stuff that I see very regularly is people come to me and they say, this happened and this happened and this happened. And it's really just, all of our functions, our bodies, our systems all work together. When there's one thing that starts to have problems, it's going to affect others. And we want to try to prevent that downward spiral. And that's so often, by the time people get to me, that's what's happened. And so we got to do a lot of unraveling. So it's that awareness of what's going on. And if you don't know the what's or the whys, that's when you build your team. But, having balance in your, your relationships is just as important as having balance in your meal or having balance in your microbiome. All of
What
these
is that?
things.
What is that?
Oh, apologies. Your microbiome, it's, we're made of bugs. We're more bugs than we are anything else. And so it's kind
Bugs like insects?
Smaller.
Okay, a little smaller, like germs.
So they're microbes, right? And so, they're made of it's yeast and all these different.
You know what? Speak for yourself, Nikki, not me.
You don't have any bugs.
Right. So we have all sorts of flora, microbes, all these things. There's countless parasites on us, but relax, it's all good, it's all natural, it's completely normal. Right?
It is completely normal, but it's
Even
not
necessary.
always all good, because if our microbiome gets out of balance, so if we end up having more bad bugs than good bugs,
right,
then that's when a lot of things can happen too.
right.
So
Then
often,
that's called sickness.
yeah, exactly. Our microbiome is 70% of our immune system.
Wow.
Yeah. Plays a huge role. And I see it, in labs so often. I see it either way upregulated or it's just in the tank. And we can see why people don't feel good, because their body's not functioning properly.
If I can make both an analogy and a metaphor,
Mhm.
to understand how important balance is, try walking without it. Right? All right. Now we take it for granted because we learned as tiny children to balance as we walk and then run and bike, same thing. Right. And then we forget about it. Right. We don't need to do it anymore. But its necessity is never lost. Now that's obviously a physical thing in transportation. When I was a life coach, one of the things I offered was balancing life. And in life coaching, there's usually like 7 to 9 categories. You can say, all right, spiritual, career, health. No, not a single client ever came to me and said, Tony, I need balance in my life. Not a single one. Okay. Oh, even though I offered it, it was always basically goal pursuit or helping them go from dysfunctional to functional.
Yeah.
But yet we take balance for granted, and because we don't consider it, but it's actually a necessity.
Mhm.
And when we don't have it because we don't think about it much, the suffering happens, and it could be in a level that it happens. We're so accustomed to that we don't even think it could be changed. Like, oh, I'm lonely, but you don't think about having a relationship or do what it takes to have a relationship.
Yeah.
Or whatever, or I feel bitter, and you don't look into your spirituality, because you're so caught up with your life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true. And that's, sort of one of the things that I have built the show around is that health is spiritual. Health is financial, health is relational. It's also obviously physical, mental, emotional, but all of these things in life play a role in balance or imbalance, and how well we play the game of life, and I say that in a good way, because I truly believe that we have, all of us, each of us, huge important things to do. And if we don't feel good, or if we don't have balance in any of these other areas, which kind of makes us not feel good, and it creates a lot of stress, then it makes life hard. And I don't want to come across as I'm a crazy, always happy kind of person. It's also the difficulty that builds us and makes us grow. And so we need that. We need the difficulty. I think I went through my own difficulties because it helped me to grow, and it literally has brought me where I am now. And anything that I know, I'm able to share, and then continue to learn, and then continue to share. I mean, it's about serving. It's about loving the best that we can. We don't love everybody, right? Anyway, I'm rambling.
No, it was great. A great segue to the point I'm about to make. Right now I'm studying the meditations written by Marcus Aurelius 1800 years ago. And I have a protege. Him and I are studying it and also making it into a course simultaneously.
Oh, cool.
And I long believe, it's a very common notion that everything happens for a reason. Well, me being the intellectual, pseudo-intellectual that I was, like, no way, I'm in charge. I make my own choices. There's a world of chaos. And the best I could concede was, oh yeah, everything happens for a reason, quite often a stupid reason. There's an awful lot of stupidity out there, and I don't exclude myself from that. But one of the things Aurelius really emphasizes is that this thing called providence, that everything happens for a reason and it's divine. And the more I studied this, quite frankly, I have to admit this change. I have let go of that previous belief that I just described. And I now believe that it all happens for a reason. Things happen for a reason, and not just a reason. As terrible as it may seem, and it could seem insidious, it happened so that the greater thing can happen in the future.
Yeah.
And I never would have believed that up until now. And it's like even weird coming out of my mouth because it's so incredible to me. But I believe that now because I've seen it. And of course, we know that terrible things happen all the time. So they're like, oh yeah. But what happens is you're focusing on just that thing. What's in the future or what's subsequent to that? And not immediately. You got, people like to define karma, or they see something bad happen to someone they don't like. See, karma got you. Like they're the arbiter of karma. Right. Karma, right? Oh, I knew karma would get you, Tony. There's a big picture. Right, that is almost impossible to see, but the greater your ability to scope out, to zoom out to this greater picture, the better you can see these good things. Yeah, why things happen or happened, and it's very soothing. I don't say that to soothe you. Because it does, because that happens. Oh, you just want to make me feel better. No, I prefer to make you feel worse, actually. I don't say that to say that. I say that for growth. Yeah. So that you can grow and understand things better and be more of who you want to be, who you need to be, destined to be.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite things, and it's not an easy thing, but one of my favorite things is looking back. And I say that because I know it's important to live in the present, right? And we don't want to look back with regret and all of these things, but it's a looking back and seeing the path that I have gone, because we don't really see it when we're in the moment. We don't see it. We can only really see that path, I think, in when we look at the past and where we've gone, and who I am now compared to who I was yesterday, a year ago, 10 years ago, and how the hard things are the big things. The hard things are the things that have created my character. I think about even as simple, it wasn't simple, but moving from Texas to Colorado, the difficulties that we had throughout the process and being here and starting over and not knowing anybody and not having jobs and all of these things that we did, if I was still in Dallas, the likelihood of me being a nutritionist is I don't know what the likelihood is, but I probably wouldn't have been,
One thing you can say for sure is that everything happened just the way it did, and it led you to this moment right now. And then you became a nutritionist in that journey. That is a fact. Right? Everything else is an unfact. Right? It's a possibility. Maybe something would happen, maybe nothing would have happened. But it's all in the imagination, because one thing we know are the facts. Right. So if you're in a good spot, you can look at the facts and feel good about them. If you're in a bad spot, you can look at the facts and feel sad about them. Or you can say, wait a second, this is not the place where I'm stopping.
Yeah. So right. So true. Yeah.
Right. It's not the end. Unless it's like off time. It's not the end. All right. Yeah. And so keep going. Keep going.
And be curious. I think that's a part of it, because when it's not easy, it gets really frustrating, but maybe be curious and know or consider, what is this doing for me? How is this taking me wherever it is that I want to go or need to go, or don't even know I need to go? Sometimes we don't even know it. But it's, having that curiosity maybe sometimes can be helpful. I don't know. Maybe not, but
it is very useful, because I'm an NLP practitioner, curiosity, if you're not a curious NLP practitioner, then you're not a good NLP practitioner. Why does something happen? Not that you need to know the answer, but just that you can start digging and find out things that may surprise you or may be valuable, things that you didn't expect, and keep going. Because curiosity is what created this world.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
By human hands.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna expedite the final commercial break, because I told you I was going to get you out of here in the hour. So we're going to take the unfortunate. We're going to have a last commercial break here from our sponsor to come back with the unfortunate last segment with Nikki Burnett.
This episode of Self-Help Coaching is brought to you by Perfisio. What if there was a self-improvement program truly personalized to you, that knew and cared for you deeply? That whatever was going on in your life adapted for you perpetually. Visit www.perfisio.io. That's PERFICIO.io, where you can start a program that will always suit you, considering all the pressures and nuances of your life.
You're listening to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast with me, your host, Tony Petroza. This has been such a wonderful conversation with Nikki Burnett. I've learned a lot. I have been entertained. I think this is great and value for the listener on a number of areas, right? Epigenetics, pregnancy, fertility, general health, and there's a lot of other facets too about basically life. So thank you so much in really being the main proponent here. I'm asking questions, but this is about Nikki Burnett, and it's been wonderful. So
thanks. It's been fun.
Let me ask my last question, and then we'll wrap it up. Why are labs so important for understanding health and the body, and what makes functional lab testing different?
So interesting question. Everybody knows what labs are, but what are functional
Labrador
labs?
Retrievers, the kind
Yeah.
of dog, right?
Ooh, yeah. We should have some more of those.
I had one.
Dog person. Do you have a lab? Oh, they're the best.
No, I had one long ago.
No, time for another one.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress.
I love dogs. Dogs. There's nothing in the world like a dog. A dog is one of the greatest things that God ever made.
Oh man, yeah, I am 100% on board. Yeah. So the difference is, there's similarities and there are differences, but the goal of functional nutrition, functional medicine, I'm not a doctor, so I'm a nutritionist, so I can't say I practice functional medicine, but I'm trained.
You know what, Nikki? For the sake of this podcast, Dr. Nikki Burnett. I'm going with that.
I'll take it.
Doctor, continue with your opinion, doctor.
So I have been trained, I'm trained with the functional medicine doctors, but I can't prescribe. Anyway, point is, what we're trained to do is to dig for the root cause. We have to understand if you think of a tree, like literally think of a tree and all of its roots and all of the things that can go wrong that make for leaves to fall off or leaves to turn brown or leaves to have microbial infections also, is because there's something going on at the root that's not allowing it to thrive up at the leaves and the branches. Right. And so we want to understand that root cause. We want to get to the foundation of health and start there. And then we want to start those repairs, because in time, we don't have to address this stuff up here, because the body now has the ability to address the stuff up here.
Right.
So functional lab testing is, it really is looking at the different functions of the body, potentially different organ systems. There are things that we can do. We can look at the microbiome. This is one of the most amazing things, with the understanding that we are more microbe than we are human. We're just microbe carriers, but that's, it's these microbes.
I'm not even human at all, but go on. Right,
but the microbes are a huge part of our personality. They're a huge part of whether we deal with depression and anxiety. Wow. There's so many, it's our physical health. It's all of these things that are so important. And we can look at these bugs and we can look at, these inflammatory markers and things that give us so much information that is not typically done in conventional medicine. So we can take those and we can look at environmental toxicants. So the big thing right now is glyphosate, which is Roundup. And we can look at a body now and see how much glyphosate is in their body. And what's hard, because it's such a, at this point, kind of a ubiquitous toxicant, that in people who are super clean, including myself, and eat organic and try to stay away from those things, we're filled with it. And it's heartbreaking, and we can get rid of it, and that's important to understand. But knowing the toxic burden that we have, knowing how the liver is functioning, and knowing, the heavy metals and we can go on and on, right?
So you take a person takes tests,
yeah,
right, and they get the results. They want to know the exact composition of these things, whether they be organic or not. And with that information, you do something.
Yeah, at that point, we put together a protocol that's individualized for that client. And so it's motivational for the client, it's information for both of us, and it's also a guide. And then it is, retesting then, gives us more information. Right. Are we doing all the right things? Are there other things that we need to do? So yes, sorry, I ramble a little bit. I get excited.
All right, I brought you back down.
You did.
Very good. So you have a great philosophy, you have a great knowledge and expertise, but you use actual scientific tests to bring all that stuff to bear, and then you make suggestions, and then you make adjustments.
Exactly. In a nutshell.
I should be your coach, Nikki. What are you?
You should.
That's wonderful. And it's not, and your specialty, you're a nutritionist, right? So basically that has so much to do with health. All right. So anyone who either is in bad health and has the obvious need for it, or just wants to maintain health or improve their health, they can come to you and say, Nikki, help me.
Yep. I'm always available to have a conversation.
That's a broad appeal. I guess so. Anyone that's a living person is a possible client for you.
Pretty much, right? Yeah.
If you're dead and listening, you're not qualified. You're not a resurrectionist, right? That's for the Christianity. That's the next conversation, or an eye. Great stuff. So we're gonna wind it up. Do you have any final remarks for the audience, Nikki?
I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to be able to have a platform, on multiple levels, to be able to, I hope, reach people. I don't know, give hope, or whatever the case may be, but to spread my message. And really, the message is we've got big things to do, and let's get healthy and feel good so we can do them.
Great. Now, your website is tastelifenutrition.com. That's tastelifenutrition.com. And did you have any special offers for the audience? I should have clarified that before. Do you have anything?
I have a cookbook. I have a couple of cookbooks, actually. I mean, they're not like they're out in the world, but they're cookbooks that I use for clients and that kind of thing. So yeah, happy to give away one of the, one or multiple cookbooks.
Okay, go to tastelifenutrition.com, get a cookbook. All right, healthy living, and you have a whole bunch of social media. We're going to make a profile for you on our website. She's all over social media, so we only have to mention them here. There's like 10 of them. Go to Nikki's, go to her website, go to her profile at selfhelpcoaching.com, and you can go to her social media. This has been a wonderful, excellent. I gotta say, this has been one of my favorite conversations, and I really, it's so excellent. Very, very valuable too for the person, because I talk about a lot of philosophy and emotional coaching, and we touched on that certainly. But you talk about the real stuff, which is, food and hormones and toxins, and that you really can't escape that. Right. That's the real world. Great stuff. I really recommend that you go to Nikki's website, if not for the cookbook, just for all these other things that she offers, because, if you want to feel good or improve your health, I'm going to condone her right now. Tony, stamp of approval, Nikki Burnett.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me, Nikki. I really appreciate it. And remember, everyone, we're all responsible for ourselves, and we could all use a little help. And with that, thanks for joining me on the Self-Help Coaching Podcast. Thank you, Nikki Burnett.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Self-Help Coaching Podcast, where insights, attitudes, and methods for success get illuminated. Learn what leaders and change workers have done and are doing now to create magnificent futures. Remember to visit our website at self-helpcoaching.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Self-Help Coaching Podcast.